Paris sometimes it feels necessary to resist the easy seductions of beauty. Other times it is pointless to refrain. If designers here produced little in the way of big ideas or innovations this season, they seem to have agreed on the same aesthetic mandate: excite the attention of viewers without in any way challenging it. This was as true of the often unruly Rei Kawakubo at Comme des Garçons Hommes Plus as it was of the orderly and corporately obedient Chris Van Ast at Dior Homme. Where Ms. Kawakubo's particular line of beauty is typically composed of grand and even Baroque gestures, her approach this time was starkly simplified. If you eliminated the muslin dinosaur heads worn by some of the models, they were made by the fabric artist Shimoda Masakatsu, and focused on the clothes, what you saw was a designer more eager than usual to please. Through her press office, Ms. Kawakubo usually issues a couple of cryptic phrases purporting to elucidate her state of mind. This time she offered white shock and the punk inside, as if those terms explained anything about pretty and modestly asymmetrical jackets printed with panels from Superman cartoons, or else covered with brick patterns reminiscent of paintings by the artist Martin Wong, or a grouping of elegant padded white jackets worn over billowing trousers suitable for a modern ZO.Mr. Van Ast is a designer who often makes references to punk and teen boy culture while designing for a house that, more than any other, emblematizes conservative dimensions of French cultural identity. Dior is owned, after all, by Bernard Arnault, the richest man in France. Mr. Arnault attended the Dior Homme show with his wife, Hélène, and they were surrounded by a phalanx of bodyguards. The unevenness of wealth distribution is striking in Paris, where immigrant tent encampments line the boulevards and medians at the outskirts, and the unemployment among the young, in all of France, stubbornly hovers around 20%. What Mr. Van Ast produced was in the main a selection of handsome dark two-piece suits snugly tailored, bristling with buttons, vaguely feminized through the use of dressmaking techniques, yet still armoring and tough. Though he showed them at the Grand Palais on the usual bevy of boy lovelies barely old enough to shave, he also cast a group of men in their 40s, the models Cameron Alborzian, Marc van der Loo, Arnaud Lemaire and others who, though well preserved, also look as if they've been around the block. For all that designers have worked up a collective lather trying to get at the millennial consumer, and there were some terrific jeans in high waist, full leg cuts aimed at those guys. The commercial exigencies of a house like Dior Homme count on the inevitable maturation of Generation Z. The perma-adolescent look of sweatpants and hoodies may work for now. But, eventually, Mr. Van Ast seemed to be betting, the time comes to man up. A generalized fatigue with athleisure was an underlying theme at the shows here, sometimes expressed in unintentionally humorous ways. Backstage before Alexander McQueen, the designer Sarah Burton spoke of how elements of classic British tailoring are hardwired into the house's identity. Mostly that meant a collection replete with suit jackets whose exploded silhouette amounted to a slight amplification of the usual hourglass McQueen proportions and lavish deployment of woolen weaves, chalk stripe and windowpane checks, one associates with Savile Row.